All right, good evening and welcome to Football in Vivo on Club Deportes, show number 26. We air every week on clubdeportes.com. Follow us on Twitter at Futbol Austin. That's Futbol Austin. Follow Club Deportes at Club Deportes. For all the latest and greatest sports news and commentary, you gotta go to the only website Josh Wolf has bookmarked. That's clubdeportes.com. I am your host, Eric McCoy, and I am joined by a man who can spike a water bottle even more emphatically than Jesse Marsh. It's David Alvarez. Welcome back to the show, David.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's good to be back.
You kept us in suspense all day. Wasn't sure you were going to be able to make it. I'm sitting in the parking lot. I look up and see a rainbow, and then there you are, David Alvarez. You've magically appeared just right there, right underneath the rainbow.
I just said the same thing earlier today. I think something is going to happen in the weather. And then a big boom happened in my classroom. And I was like, all the kids were like, what?
We need you to say that more often, apparently, because we clearly need some rain.
Because we talk about the rain. We did some rain praise, big praise.
That's what it was.
Nice.
And so that came about. But anyways, that's kind of funny. But yeah.
Very funny, David. Okay, I'm also joined by a man with takes more accurate than Sebastian Driussi from the penalty spot. It's Jorge Chavez.
I did call it a trap game, if I don't recall.
I believe so, Jorge.
But, yeah.
All right, and that's not all. We're Football in Vivo here. We actually have probably the most distinguished guest in the entire history of Football in Vivo. We've got Katie Goodman. I don't have time to list all your accolades here, Katie. You got ESPN, Texas State Soccer. You just do it all.
I'm blushing underneath all this makeup. I can assure you.
I might need some of that makeup. These lights are a little tough.
Yeah, a little rough there.
Yeah. I'm pretty busy. There's quite a bit on the resume at the moment, to the point of where I even forget everything I'm doing.
But hey, you made it to Football in Vivo, a priority.
Now you can add that to your...
Yes.
You may actually want to leave that off. You may actually want to leave that off. But okay, Katie, so welcome to the show. Glad to have you here, all the way from San Antonio, too.
Driving in the rain. That's dedication.
Rain, yeah. You don't get rainbows without rain. So, yeah, driving through the rain.
The one time people actually slow down on I-35 is when it's
yes.
Well,
not in rush hour traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Katie, why don't you go ahead and tell our audience just kind of a bit about yourself, just kind of your career to this point, the work you've done. I mean, you're all over the place. So tell our audience a bit about what you've done.
Yeah. So currently I am the soccer analyst for ESPN San Antonio. I also co-host the Saturday Morning Hangover on Saturday mornings, early in the morning. Yeah, and I have in fact been hungover on that show. So it lives up.
Which probably made for better analysts.
Yes, no, it's great stuff. Give me 2 shots of tequila and I'll entertain you all day long.
We need to do that for our show.
There we go.
Sounds good.
Things will flow quicker.
Probably. Next show we each get a shot and then we give our hot take.
I like the
see, we're already thinking ahead. That's good.
Yeah, so that time really kind of intermixed in the MLS soccer scene. I also cover, Houston Dash. You saw a picture there of me just a second ago. That was the last home Dash game. And then I'm also a color analyst for Texas State Women's Soccer. I'm also on the broadcast team for University of the Incarnate Word, so I'll be calling basketball, baseball as well, which is nerve-wracking because I'm a soccer purist. So that's new territory there. I'll also be the sideline reporter for their football team.
Wow.
So I'll be on ESPN Plus a little bit here.
Pretty much. Anytime you turn to ESPN Plus,
she's going to be there.
Yeah. That's the plan here. Okay, that's the big master plan. And and I it all actually started with me playing soccer again. So I played at Mississippi State as a D1 athlete in the SEC, and then
so you announced the games, and you also play in the games.
Used to. Okay, this is many moons ago we're talking, right? So this was I graduated in 2013. Took a long hiatus, and then came back to semi-pro soccer in 2021.
Okay.
So I played with the San Antonio Athenians, and then I co-host their podcast for United Women's Soccer, the league, and then I had an MLS podcast called Title League FC for a minute there. That's how I got really involved in MLS, and then that's how I got wrapped up in ESPN San Antonio. I was runner-up to their Rock the Mic challenge, so that's how I made my way there, and I'm just keeping on. And I think the biggest thing I've done yet is I was part of the first ever all-female broadcast for the San Antonio Spurs. And so that's something that I would like to get back to at some point. You know, it was a fantastic experience. So now I'm just working on getting reps in, staying busy. And one day I'd love to, you know, be able to work for a team or, you know, possibly a show.
Hopefully you can squeeze it in the schedule.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Just for some context, I host one show. You know, struggle to make it on time, struggle to prepare fully for that.
I'm part of the show
in
and the Austin Anthem podcast. So
I do the Austin Anthem podcast with you guys too weekly. That really keeps me in check, you know, because it's so easy to get away from you. But when you're forced to talk about it, then you're like, oh yeah, I got to be on my A game for this one. So no, it's a great podcast, and they give you all the happenings of what's happening with Austin.
So please listen to us. We're the longest running podcast in Central Texas.
There you
go.
So
now me and now just a couple basic guys. He's got the one show.
And then there's these two guys.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, I talked to you before, Katie, and I knew you had done some other sports, but soccer, that is your main sport.
That is my bread and butter.
Okay, good. That is good to hear. So, and I assume that's probably your favorite sport to cover out of all of these. Is that a safe assumption?
Totally and completely. I mean, I've played since I was 4. I played at a higher level, and so when I'm watching a game, I'm really dissecting every little piece of it, and it makes me feel connected to the game, even though I'm no longer a player. I feel like it's that one little piece that I can still keep around in my life. So I love it.
Awesome, because we're gonna get into the Austin FC Minnesota United game, and as
unfortunately,
you see in our show, we dissect it from a lot of different angles. So
awesome.
So it should be fun. But just real quick though, you've done a ton in your career. Very, very impressive. I have no idea how you've done all of this, and you look a lot younger than us three. So
good makeup.
No idea
Trust
how
me,
you've
I
done
don't
all
wake
this.
up like this.
I am going to go home very depressed as far as what I've accomplished in my life, or what I haven't accomplished in my life to this point. No. But out of all this amazing stuff that you've done, do you have like a favorite event that you've covered?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I mean, I guess
I only ask tough questions on this show. These guys will tell you.
You know, even though I'm, of course, a soccer.
Yeah, they're hard.
Even though I'm a soccer purist.
Tough but fair.
I really think the Spurs game was it for me. Just because, I mean, that was my first time on a regional network, on a pregame show, and having to move with pace and interviewing Keldon Johnson. I mean, that was a major pinch me moment. I was with Michelle Beadle on that broadcast. And
UTSA.
so that, and she's amazing. She's the most talented host that I've ever worked with. She has the ability to make you feel like yourself in the middle of multiple cameras, you know, and people watching, you know. It's incredible, her ability and her talents. But I guess for, you know, when it comes to soccer, I think my favorite match, there's so many. I think it was our recent comeback, the Austin FC comeback against Sporting. I mean,
I was there too.
We were there.
All of us were there.
All 4 of us were
all over there.
I mean, we had almost we'd almost put him to bed, you know? We were just like, you know, Austin's not coming back. The days of making our comebacks aren't a thing. And,
we sort of.
And we spoke way too soon. Yeah. And they totally proved us wrong. And now we can't predict Austin soccer we think we can, because they continuously throw us for a loop, especially after the Minnesota game. You know, you're like, well, they're going to make a comeback, and then.
I did halfway expect the comeback, to be honest, in that Minnesota game.
Well, let's go ahead and get to it, right?
It was not
Let's go ahead and get to it. Jerry, here we go. All good things, they must come to an end, as we all know now. So the first time since May, Austin FC have lost a match away from Q2 Stadium as they fell 2-1 to Minnesota United. Jerry's getting us all the action right here. Any quick thoughts as these highlights get underway here, Katie, as far as this match is concerned?
You know, this shot coming up here was really tricky to the eyes. I thought for sure that was going in.
Yeah, side netting always trips you up, doesn't it?
But per usual, Stuver did a fantastic job of reading that. I mean, even if it had, he would have been right there pretty close to saving that ball.
Yeah, most definitely. Interesting night all around, I think, for us as the goalkeeper and back line, I think.
Now, the foul in that situation, in my opinion, it was unintentional, but it was a foul nonetheless. That's a really hard call as a ref, not one I would want to be in the position to call.
Yeah, technically, it was the right call.
And so, I mean, do you think that can we just kind of, is this just one of these things that happens, or should we blame Ethan Finlay? I mean, it's the second match in a row he's given away a pretty cheap penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've all been there and we've all done that. It's just like a lack of body awareness is what it's looking like. It's not like he went in shoulder down. It's not, you don't see him check over his left shoulder and see that, hey, I'm going to flatline this guy. It was clearly an accident.
My playing career is very limited, so I actually have not done that, as I have not done most things that occur on a soccer field. David can maybe vouch for
I'm probably the one who usually gets run over, if I'm being honest, because I'm the smaller one on the field.
I haven't done what?
Yeah. That means focus, the penalty that Ethan Finley gave away.
No, it was, you guys were I'm totally agree. I was mesmerized by the details of it. I was like, because I was looking at the play, and he actually, the body of the other player actually went that way too, so it wasn't Finley's fault, really. I mean,
they just happened to be in the same place.
It was a foul, but it was not. I mean, he couldn't do much. I mean, yeah.
It's unlucky there.
Yeah, I think what Finley,
that save was
that was an incredible save.
I tell you what, Austin is lucky for Brad Stuber.
They
are.
I
he
really
is a blessing to this team.
A lot of games this season were
saved by him.
I mean, I think so, but Stuber is like responsible for a lot of those goals.
Yes,
it's so
true.
He did. It's like it's almost like
Cascante. Mess-ups here.
Oh
man.
Okay, we're gonna get to Cascante.
Yeah, we're gonna get to Cascante in a second here.
But that was a clear handball.
Pretty clear handball there.
Yeah, that was.
In the same handball, but on the Premier League was not called earlier that day. Yeah, but that was just a typical Jersey.
Yeah, at least he was able to return it.
No, it's just there's no doubt about it. There's no way he's gonna put it. It's riding a big wave.
Yeah, that was Danny Pereira there. Maybe not his best match, but we saw him kind of struggle to advance.
It was pretty bad. It was a very bad, but he like.
And here's the play that.
Right, like I mean, come on, man! It's only Americans do it,
What?
No, wait a minute.
Okay. I mean, there's quite a few breakdowns. There's quite a few breakdowns in that situation. It started with Brad. He's the one who has the eyes on the field. He should have seen those two attackers high up, really close to his center back. Now, you're in your box, and he already has a guy to the left of him. I'm talking about Cascante here. You can't take that much time on the ball, even if there is a player next to you or not. Like, you need to, take your touch, open up, and get it out. Now, you can also even break it down even further in that his outside winger was Cleats Chalk, which is great, but he was too high up, which completely cut off any passing lane he could have had prior to even Minnesota running up and giving him that pressure. So there's quite a few breakdowns from that play, and it all looked pretty bad on Cascante. But
former Futbol en Vivo.
We
had him in the
second most distinguished.
There's that guy. He was on the show, but that was before our time.
So on that play though, Katie, who would you say? Just because I just love getting a percentage. I love my stats. So if you had to divvy up responsibility for that goal, is it more on Stuber or is it more on Cascante?
I would say 60-40 Brad. 60-40 Brad because he had the eyes of the field. 40% on Cascante because he didn't check his shoulder.
Oh, good. You're going to have to agree with this guy.
I love it.
Is that what you said?
I love it because 60%, because that's not the first time that Stuber does that. It's not the first time. It's like we talk about the same thing over and over again. Why do you try to touch the ball? Why you don't touch ball? You just clear the ball. That's your job. That's not your job. You're not that player.
Now, if he did that every time, though, Austin he would never have any possession if he just cleared.
I know, but he needs
to. But in his defense, like I said, that outside back was really high up. He could have checked a little bit back, so he would have had a slightly more,
closer to the edge.
But it was kind of just the thing that both of them made the error just show about that's actually the main problem that we have. And in defense today, it's like that exactly what the problem is. Most of the goals come through there from Cascante's error. And I was asking my Tico friends about Cascante being in the national team, and I say, if he's going to be in the national team, probably he's going to be on the bench. But
so there was a mistake there from Cascante. I actually thought he was pretty fantastic in this match. Otherwise,
there was one mistake, and this is the thing with the way Austin FC plays. They love to play out of the back. Yep. And that requires both the goalkeeper, even though we don't like it, to play with the central backs. And that's That's how this developed. But again, and I totally agree with what you just said. You don't have that much. You have to have an inner time clock to say how far away is my there's a forward that I'm checking away from me so that I can do whatever I want in the box. You have to have a timer in there, right. And his timer was off. He did not expect that to happen to him, but at the same time, Brad is looking at Cascante, and in his view, the striker is also in his perception.
Mm-hmm. These center backs are also under an incredible amount of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, one mistake is detrimental. If that same mistake had been made in the center of the field, outside of the field, it would be a very different story. So, by taking on that position, they're taking on a ton of responsibility. We also can't forget that it's an entire back line. It's an entire process for the ball to even get to Cascante in the first place, right? And like we had said in the breakdown of that one specific play, the outside wingers were just too disconnected. And that's something that's been an issue for Austin FC this entire time, in my opinion. The back line has been disconnected, and there's been a lack of communication.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's interesting that you point out, and that's something I always like to point out as well, Katie, is that the center backs, when they make a mistake, I mean, you're the last line, literally the last line of defense. Yeah. So it's good. We saw earlier in that highlight, Pereira make a mistake, get dispossessed, but there was still a greater sequence of plays that happened after that, so it ultimately didn't lead to a goal. But yeah, I agree that, when you're a center back, you make those mistakes, but that's going to be the one that we're talking about. Speaking of Pereira, I do think this was not a particularly good match for him. And actually in that sequence that led to the Cascante error, that all began with Pereira having to play backwards from midfield. And I think in general, he really struggled to advance the ball up the pitch. He was dispossessed a couple times. This leads me to kind of an issue that I think we've talked about a bit on this show, and that's the starting 11. I mean, we've seen the same starting 11 now for four straight matches.
Four straight games. Yeah.
A lot of these players look tired to me.
They just look
Danny
tired.
Included.
Yeah. I mean, Fagundes was...
I think
he sort of disappeared for this game.
Yes, and Fagundes, they pointed out on the broadcast, Fagundes actually hasn't finished a match in any of the last 4 matches. He's been subbed off. He hasn't played a full 90, which is kind of remarkable to think. But he's an Iron Man earlier in the season, always going 90 or 120.
But time catches up to you. I mean, it's been a long season, a very successful season, but that's kind of their modus operandi now, that they're always playing from behind now. They're always playing a goal back or 2 goals back. So it puts more pressure on you to keep pushing forward. So a guy like Fagundes, who absolutely loves to be on the field and goes always 110% anytime he's on, he's going to get tired after a long season. And so the result is the last couple of games he said he has not been able to finish. I don't know if that's if you give him a break in a game here or there, looking towards the playoffs, but yeah, they today's announcement helped, obviously.
For sure. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. But I know where us 3 stand on this kind of this consistent starting 11. I think us 3 would like to see some more rotation. Is that fair to say? I know. David, do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Where do you stand on it, Katie? Would you like to see some of these other names there, perhaps like Johan Valencia maybe coming in for some action? Owen Wolf, Danny Hosen, perhaps. It was not Maxi Rudy's best game. Would you like to see any of those names actually get some minutes? Do you think it's been an issue, the fact that Austin FC have consistently used the same 11 here?
Yeah, I think Danny Hosen has proved himself time and time again, and I feel like Urruti has not been as productive as maybe he was towards the beginning of the season.
Yeah, hasn't scored since July 13th.
Yeah, and so not only that, but the way in which he plays off the ball, right, and the chances he's creating in the final third, whether they're dangerous enough for us, right? And I think that whenever Danny Hosen comes in, the biggest thing you see is a change in creativity of play, and that's the same with Gite. Like, the second he comes in, creativity is sparked, and their opportunities in the final third become so much more dangerous. So when I think of players like that, the problem is with this situation, I mean, you were coming up against LAFC, like, it's kind of working. So do we change it? Is Danny Hosen a player who needs that pressure? Is there something that Josh Wolf is seeing in practice that is not translating to him being in a starting position, you know, maybe there's something he knows about this player. But, you know, the last time we spoke to him, you could tell he was frustrated. I mean, he comes in, he does it for Austin time and time again. He scores goals, gets things done. So that's somebody that I would really like to see in the mix. Now, love Gallagher to death. He's great at helping us transition out. You know, he had that great goal against Sporting.
Right.
He was, you know, playing to his forward playing abilities by being there and taking that shot on goal and having the wherewithal, right? But there's been quite a few times where they've had players get in on the wrong side of him.
Yeah.
And what that does is it makes the center backs look bad. And so you're over here talking all this mess about Cascante and Ruben, when in reality, they're trying to take on two guys, and then there's more guys coming in from behind, and it's because their outside backs are so wide. And I'm sure that's part of their process and their style of play. And I know Josh Wolf has even spoken to that. He said, hey, that happens sometimes when you're trying to press high in these situations where you're trying to make a comeback. There's going to be a counter, right? But, you know, something, in my opinion, that he could really do better at is just being mindful. I mean, there was this situation that I saw him in a game, and he stepped to one player when he should have really stepped to the other, forced the ball wide, given his team time to come back and get numbers behind him versus taking the higher step only for them to pass right around him. So, you know, I know I'm being a little heavy on our outside backs, but they play a huge role in the attack and in the defense. They are key. Like, people don't give outside backs enough credit because they are a big part of the transition and building out of the back.
No, and I think especially when you talk about last year's team versus this year's team, I think one of the keys early in the season was I think the fullbacks were positioned much better defensively. I think they're actually a little more conservative. Lately, I think we've started to see, as Gallagher, I think, has grown more comfortable in that role. I think he started to push a bit higher forward. And, yeah, you could definitely see Minnesota target, you know, Austin FC's left wing. And so I was a little concerned at first. I'm sitting here in my Ireland jersey. So when you start bashing my guy, John Gallagher, I was a little, I was like, I don't like where this is going,
my
Katie.
Irish roots are feeling it too, okay?
I don't like where this is going, Katie. But you make a good point. So I'm guessing, and I don't know if you guys can chime in here as well, is John Kolmanic perhaps someone you'd like to see a bit more of? The starting left back at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, for some reason, he fell out of favor. He hasn't even been substituting all that much throughout all the season. So I can't believe he's that much of a better option than Gallagher. But again, like Katie's mentioned, he's a converted forward. So that's his mindset.
Yes.
So the defensive side is probably somewhere rattling in the back of his head, but that's not his priority. Nick Lima is the same way. And the reason why this is happening is because, I mean, who did he learn the coaching acumen from? From Greg Berhalter. And what does he use? It's the same system. Anthony Jedi Robinson and Sergino Dest, they are offensive players that happen to be playing in the back. And so, not the same quality of player, obviously, but that's the thinking. And that's why he asked Gallagher if he wanted to be in the left back. And so he's done an admirable job, but there's still those little defensive, spurs that he's just not there quite yet. And so, but those little mistakes add up.
It is interesting because he actually has a lot of recovery speed. I mean, Gallagher just has a ton of pace, so he actually can make up for a lot of his wonky positioning. Yeah, but you can only get away with it so much, and I think it really started to cost us FC in this match. David. Let's bring you into the conversation.
Oh, thank you
I see you over there. You're getting a little anxious. I know you want to talk. I know you got some things to say.
I don't.
Are you Kolmanic, Gallagher? Where do you stand on this debate?
I'll keep both of them. I mean, we should have him. I mean, I really like, because, you know, Kolmanic, I really miss.
I'm not saying we get rid of him.
I miss.
I'm just asking who you think should
I would like to
start
see both of them play.
Okay, you could actually, because in this match, we actually saw Kolmanic come on and Gallagher just kind of move further up and play as left wing. Is that something
that's something exactly?
Give Diego Fagundes a breather. Okay, I like where you're going with that, David. And I definitely
that was an interesting move, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And earlier in the season, I actually asked Josh Wolf that question in a post-match presser about seeing more of Gallagher back on the wing. I don't know if that's going to happen as much now with Rigoni, Caruso, those players. So who knows? Yeah. But that was interesting, and I definitely agree with what you said about Danny Hoesen. I think Danny Hoesen is. I'm going to start the Danny Hoesen fan
He
club
really
right here.
should
We're
start.
starting it right here.
Okay.
Rudy is not.
The voice of dissent here.
Wow.
I mean,
The powers that be
Remember
here at
this-
Club Deportes,
Hey,
they
remember-
like when we argue. They don't like us to
Yeah,
agree.
they don't like us to agree on
So we
everything.
gotta have.
too nice, okay?
And this is usually the
Let us have it.
dissenting
guys,
party
remember
right
last
here.
year when we're so happy that Hosen was not playing? Like, remember that we were so happy.
But that was a year ago.
Okay,
man.
to be fair, we had
Easily
very little
forget.
to be happy about. But
No,
by the end of
but
last
no,
season, we're
to
just
be
making
fair,
stuff
no,
up.
no,
at that
guys,
point.
to be fair, no, you have to see from the context, but he has done a great job now that he's coming. Like every time he had a chance to play,
You
know,
were there against Sporting KC.
I was.
Right next to me with that
Yeah.
goal with it. That was.
I did the same goal the
incredible
day before, so I was like, yeah, he's good. I was wrong. He proved me wrong, man. He proved me wrong. He just did a volley, and nobody touched that ball.
No
so,
look over there.
Yeah.
Just so
that
you're
was
aware,
so-
kid, you're not the only soccer
So,
player
yeah.
on this
Ah,
show.
hey.
This guy right here.
So yeah, I think I would like to see him. I think Urruti has not done his job. Like he's reminded us of what he did
I think,
in Houston
yeah.
before when it was very. But now, yeah, he needs to do something. We need to do something there. I mean, I like the idea of what we play, but we cannot play with the same players against the different teams, right? It's like
I would
Back to
add
the
that we
original
could
point.
probably benefit from a more defensive-minded defensive center mid as well, especially against a team like LAFC, which with a bunch of fast strikers, outside wingers. I mean, the depth of that team, you already know.
I would
Yeah,
say,
that's
I would say,
That's
just
scary.
like Leeds did. It's the way that
We're
Leeds
not
played.
we're
the
not talking
pressure,
about that.
Yeah.
We're
the
not.
pressure that they kept. The
Jerry,
same
can you
pressure.
edit this out? I don't want to talk about this. I don't know why. You
But-
did
Yeah, the
this.
Leeds United.
Well, it was a masterpiece. It was a masterpiece of what we need to do. Like Austin need to do the same thing. Pressure, but you need physical players to do that. You
and-
cannot play with the same play because all the team knows how we play. Everybody knows how Austin plays, and they always.
There's a very defined system. It's a plan that never gets thrown
Yeah,
out,
it never-
as Chris
yeah.
Bills found
Right,
out.
right.
That
I mean,
plan never gets thrown out.
There's always a plan. We never deviate from that.
Yeah. Or you don't admit that you do.
You know, and even if you do, you don't admit it.
And Minnesota played the same way. Minnesota.
They pick them
Heath
apart.
always
I mean,
plays.
they pick them apart.
Always
And-
play, so they know what to do.
And so we need to keep in mind, just because Austin's in second place in the conference doesn't mean there's other good teams. Minnesota's fourth. They have
Minnesota's
a
a good
very
team.
very good team.
And they were in the bottom the first time, close to the bottom the first time we played.
Yeah, and so I saw a tweet somewhere today that we always played these kinds of ugly games against Minnesota. It's one of those teams that we just
He knows.
there isn't a smooth.
He was
team
an
that we
Austin.
play with it.
He
Yeah.
was an Austin Austin.
Yeah, and
You
so-
know,
so
he
the
was
coach-
a
I think
coach
they're
of
just a
Austin
tough
Austin.
matchup for us FC. They like to sit deep and just kind of frustrate Austin FC. Sometimes they have a tough time just breaking those teams down. They have a similar formation to Austin FC.
Yeah,
kind of
that-
4-2-3-1-ish kind of thing.
Which is odd because you figure that's who they defend against, in practice all day, every day against a similar team to what we faced on Saturday.
Yeah.
and they just didn't get it done.
I think there's a bit of just like canceling each other out kind of thing. when
Probably
it
a little
happens.
bit, yeah.
So actually, and that's an interesting point that you bring up about Pereira, because I actually think that when you're talking about especially difficulties playing through a press, building out from the back, that center mid, that number 6, so important, right? And that is absolutely crucial. And like I said, I didn't think he had a particularly good game. And just to kind of circle back on Houston as well, I think his link-up play, his dropping into midfield, that would help Austin FC build from the back better, because he drops. I think he's just so much more effective
Right.
at actually kind of receiving the ball between the lines than Maxi or Rudy. And it was interesting in this match, like not only do I think Houston is really great at kind of receiving the ball between the lines,
Yeah.
in this match, I actually thought he stayed higher up the pitch whenever he came on and actually helped pin those center backs back and open up some space for Driussi as well. And I think that was effective. And so I just think in general, kind of everything he does off the ball to help Austin FC move the ball up the pitch, start Danny Hoesen. That's what I have to say.
Oh, wow.
That would throw a wrench into probably what LAFC is expecting, if we want to consider that, that starting Hosen instead of Urruti, LAFC probably is not going to expect that kind of lineup, and so that brings us into what do they do about the left side and the right side? I mean, do they want to keep the same lineup other than Hosen, or add a little wrinkle in there and, like I've been saying for all this time, start Manchita Corozo?
Well, no, he picked up an injury, though.
He picked up an injury,
so
he wasn't available for Minnesota. But we talked about this in our Austin Anthem podcast as well, that I would love to see Manchita Corozo start a game, and this would have been the perfect time for it. But, like you had kind of alluded to this, that, do you go for the more likely win now and start guys or experiment with a new lineup, or keep your tried and true and go for the points? And we didn't have a choice to do that because he was out injured.
Yeah.
But he's supposedly coming all right now, so he's going to be available. But because of that, he's probably not going to start, obviously. So, but it would have been an interesting.
Yeah, I would have absolutely. If he wasn't, I would have loved to have seen him start this match. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about Austin FC's attack in this match. It makes for ugly reading, the numbers. I always got to read the stats for David. Big stat head over there. Big stat nerd. He loves it. Just a big old nerd over there. So Austin FC 64% possession in this match, 13 shots, just 2 on target.
Yeah,
and if you look at, I don't know if you're an expected goals person here, Katie, but if you look at the expected goals, you take out the penalty, just .62 is all Austin FC created. This was, if not the worst, one of the worst, certainly, attacking performances from Austin FC this season. Katie, why do you think Austin FC struggled to create quality chances so much in this match?
I know Danny struggled a little bit in the attacking third, right? And he's one of those players that we really depend on to switch the ball throughout field, right? Yes. And so he wasn't doing a lot of that, and anytime you're not using the full width of the field, you're going to limit your options. I also think, Minnesota just had a really solid back line. Yeah. And
a couple of really good center backs there.
Like sometimes you just have an off game, and you can analyze the living crap out of it. And you can be like,
as we do.
You could say Urruti was playing at 80%, and Fagundes was playing at 85%, and when they're not at their 100%, forget it, right? So I think, something that Josh Wolf could get better at, and we also saw this in the Sporting game. He waited really late into the game to start making subs, and then we were able to make our comeback, and I think as a head coach, you can only do so much, right? And you can, I think the one thing he's really good at is being able to break down what is happening on the field and who needs to be in what position. And so that's why Austin is known for being down a goal. Josh Wolf makes key subs. We return a goal, right? But in this situation, we just didn't return what we needed. And so I think he needs to be better at picking up faster when we need to make those subs and those changes. Yeah.
Have you been watching our show, Katie? Because that sounds a lot like an argument that's been posed by this guy on many occasions. No. I mean, this guy right here. You want to talk about the substitutions? Whenever that's one of your biggest complaints. How many times we come on this show after a rough result and you talk about the substitutions?
But we talk live during the game,
and you asked about
it. During the game, we say that this is going to be decided at halftime. The game with
our Twitter account. Yeah, he likes
to. And then this one too. Like this one, I mean, the substitution will decide this game pretty much, and how you do it. Like he did it really well last time. It was excellent what happened. Perfect for a coach to every substitution works, right? But
you're looking at right there, Kay. That is one of the harshest critics of Josh Wolf.
No.
Josh Wolf out all season.
Everybody needs a harsh critic in there.
I was never really
He used to be. I'd be terrified in the press conference. The big bad wolf, he called me. I'm so afraid.
He's intimidating.
He can be.
He makes fun of me all the time.
I
can't remember. There's one question I asked, and he was just like, goals, obviously. And I was like, I'm just not going to ask questions
depending what kind of mood you have. I asked him that.
But he laughed about it. He knew he was being facetious.
But I did ask him that question.
Yeah.
You did. You did. I applaud you for that, David. He gave it. Well, it's easy for you in the media. He did give him one of those. Easy for you in the media.
Of those,
You got one of those, but hey, and you didn't show up at the next press conference. So conveniently, you had to get out with the car. So Big Bad Wolf might be afraid.
He's got his people out there.
No, I was waiting for next game. Next game.
Next game.
Okay, but do you agree though with what Katie was saying there, David? It sounded straight out of your playbook there that the substitutions in this match and maybe in other matches just haven't been there for Josh Wolf. They haven't been at the right time. And I think you not even substitution, just start some of these guys. Really, I mean, why? Especially against Sporting KC, I think if some of those guys had actually started the match from the beginning, you wouldn't have gotten down 3-1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, expect that game, Sporting Kansas City. That game. I mean, it was. For him, I mean, it worked so great because that's exactly what we needed. But yeah, most of the game that doesn't happen. Like in most games, we don't have the right choices and the right timing. The timing for those substitutions is not there because that happened with that game that we have. It was Redes and Wolf there for about 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes that we're about to get ready to get into the game. It's like. Don't do that. It's like because also the other players they see that the people are waiting for them and they get nervous. So things you don't do. Right? I mean, if you're gonna make the substitution, and when he did it was right after we were doing pretty good. Right, we're about to score, and then the substitution came. So
it broke up the timing.
It came
to get better at it.
And I actually thought, Katie, you said something interesting there. You said sometimes it's just one of those days for an attack. Do you agree with that? Is it ever okay for your attack to just have one of those days, David? You're a player, you're a coach.
For the attacking, you mean?
Yeah, for the attack. Is it ever okay? Do you think that some days just not your day? Is that acceptable?
Not okay.
I mean,
I'll answer for you.
I mean, there's no luck.
Yeah.
I don't believe in luck. You don't believe in luck when you're a soccer player or a coach because you need to make that luck happen. You need to make the opportunities be there.
Happen. Yeah.
I think when I say it's one of those days, it's players aren't connecting in the way that they normally do. Mm-hmm. They're not reading each other. There's some sort of breakdown in communication, and it's just team-wide, And we've all seen these games where, okay, they played like shit last game, but somehow they're spectacular.
Now, usually we're a family show, Katie.
Yeah,
let it slide.
We'll move that one up.
Beep that. Beep. Sorry, they played like beep last game, and this, and then the next game they're spectacular and they're doing all the things right. And I think we all forget about the mental side of the game, and that these players on the field are human and that they have lives and that they do certain things in practice, and who knows what their practice schedule is like. What if they went harder in practice than maybe they should have, and then they show up to the game and they're switched off a little, maybe they're burnt out. They have a team psychologist for Austin FC, and so I'm hoping that he or she is being put to work in this situation. But I do like to bring that up because as someone who has played myself, it is really easy for people to be Monday morning quarterbacks, right? It's easy for people to point corners,
Speaking of that, the Rodney Redes substitution.
Okay, you want to go there?
Yeah, I want to go there
because a meme was born.
A meme was born
on Saturday night,
and he, as I looked at the play, it looked silly when he was in the box trying to outmaneuver his defenders.
I agree,
but the question is, why was he doing that? Because he was trying to let his guys get up closer to the box so they could pass it off. They didn't do that, so he looked alone out there, and so he did what he could, the best he could. But that's just a little bit of a microcosm because he's still right now being severely ridiculed, for lack of a better word, by the Austin fandom, and almost like a scapegoat. That whenever whenever Rodriguez goes in, something bad's going to happen. This guy is one of those guys because, but again. And Coach Wolf has said it in the press conferences. The reason he goes in is because he plays really well and he practices really well.
I've heard that many times.
But I think as a player, you probably are the one that recognizes that it's being good in practice is not the same thing. It doesn't necessarily translate into being good on the field. So I don't know if there's something going on that his confidence gets shot, that he knows he's going to come in. But
pressure, speed of play, intensity, completely different players that you're up against, and also just physicality. I mean, you can try your best to replicate game fitness in practice all day long. It's never going to be the same. And that's just because of simply where your heart rate's at, where your head is at, reading off, reading how other starters are playing. And then, if he's coming in as a sub, most likely there's other subs in the mix. So how often are they playing with that lineup in practice?
Right.
So there's so much working against the player when they're trying to be the dark horse and come back. And, I'm always for a dark horse story. I love it. And I want to see him do well.
Really
but
we talk about that. Everybody was trying to want him to score a goal.
Right, yeah.
It's weird.
They're going to have a statue of him.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone
like Rudy.
is simultaneously sick of him, yet really wants him to score.
It's a weird thing.
Because you love the team, he's part of the team.
You want him to be successful.
Where do you stand on Rodney Redis, David? We saw you giggling over there, so explain yourself.
I remember we talked about that when he came to play. Remember, it was a big deal. The yerba
first ever player.
We talk about the yerba mate and then Cecilio, yerba mate, Cecilio, and then we didn't see him anywhere in South America or on the Paraguayan national team. No mention.
He was good in Club Guarani.
He was never mentioned of going to play for Paraguay national team.
Hours of my life I can never have back. I watched a lot of those.
Yeah, we did watch a lot.
You were watching a lot of Paraguay, and we learned what you learned.
Because it was the only guy we had. So I guess we'll watch that. But
so we learned. We have learned like he's not up to it. He's not up to the challenge right now. At least for if he's going to be up to the challenge, he needs to play a full game. We need to see him the full game. He doesn't have a chance even to do that.
He also needs to take
one of the things, not anymore. One of the things that Paraguayan players do always bring is strength, physicality. They're always very physical. So if you want to have a physical guy, he will do the part.
He's built for the part.
Paraguayans, that's what they're famous for. So if you want to play it some way, play. We need somebody hard, somebody like he should have been there earlier, way earlier.
Yeah, because there was that one game when he took 3 shots on goal that looked really, really good. Mm-hmm. So he's got his moments.
Yeah, but he has his technique, but it's not. I mean, if he's not going to have a time, but if he does not have the time, when?
But But I hope Rodney Reyes does not have any social media accounts, because if he were to read those, he'd be
Rodney Redis challenge. Hashtag Rodney Redis challenge.
He'd be at the psychologist's office every single day.
That's what they sign themselves up for, and that's exactly what
that's the life of a professional athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, so do you? Okay, actually, because he was getting it pretty bad on social media on Saturday night, and I actually saw some people kind of rushing to Redis's defense, saying that hey, the team actually might be doing him a disservice by putting him in this situation. Like he's maybe not a player up to MLS standard, that maybe shouldn't be getting the kind of minutes that he's getting. What do you guys feel about that? Katie, what do you think? Is that fair to say that maybe Austin FC shouldn't actually be putting Rodney Redis in this position to go out there and, make a meme of himself, so to speak?
No, I think that's all trash talk, and that's all people looking for things to talk about because they have nothing else to talk about. And who trashes somebody unless they have nothing else to talk about, And here's the thing that is important for any player to know: if your coach is taking a chance on you and you're on the squad, and then he's even taking a chance by putting you in the game, there's hope. He sees something, you just need to figure out what that something is and get a lot better at it. I'm not saying that he's great or he's a starter or he's going to be, get a statue built after him, but, there's hope and there's a chance, and you, at that point in your career, when you're trying to break in and make a name for yourself, you have to celebrate the little wins.
So you don't think there should be a statue of Rodney Redis doing a step over outside of Q2? Because that would be
maybe a
little one.
Yeah,
small one. Next to the bear, probably.
But yeah, also in this match, I mean, if you look at Austin FC's bench, they didn't have any other wing options.
They really don't. And that's what I was going to allude to. I mean, who do you put out there? I mean, if Finley needs he's done for the night. Who do you have?
Yeah, Goodman had already come into midfield. You're not playing there.
He's like the only guy available. But I do think that what I would like to see him, maybe to get him some confidence, I do see him being loaned out next year to probably a USL side.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit, it's not just not much lower, honestly, than MLS competition. There's some good teams out there.
Austin FC are well aware.
Yeah, I mean,
San Antonio FC.
San Antonio FC, Sacramento's in the U.S. Open. Phoenix Rising's good. I mean, there's a lot of good options out there that I would really like to see.
If you're gonna go somewhere, he's gonna go to Paraguay. He's gonna go to Argentina.
I don't know if that would really help him, though. I mean, maybe like if he wants to ultimately leave Austin FC, but if he wants to make it at Austin FC,
he needs to stay here.
Yeah, I think because there can be. I know you coming from a different country. I know there'd be a lot of difficulties just kind of adapting to the culture. I don't know if that's played a role in it as well. But even just to stay,
well, not that much because most of the teams they all drink yerba mate anyway. So
yeah, there's a lot of South Americans all over.
Okay, so maybe
but he feels at home.
But I would like to see him. It's still an American league. Austin FC will have an easier time to keep track of him if he's here in the United States, and just go somewhere where he.
The fact that the MLS had reached a very high level in a very short time.
Yeah,
like in 1
that
year.
Probably
like in 1 year, like the level of MLS is gone.
It's gone.
It's skyrocket. Like
we can get to it in a minute, but Rigoni alluded to that a little bit in his press conference that it's just not the same as it was 2 or 3 years ago. So maybe the expectations are a little too high, but at the same time, the expectations for USL have gone up as well. Their competition is very, very good. Yeah. So I foresee him being on loan and being I can see him being a starter in a USL team. And I think that would work wonders for his head and for his ability. Not just come in as a scapegoat.
Play for the locomotive.
Honestly, I would love to see
San Antonio
them.
FC is at top of the table, and they're just a few short hours away.
Yeah.
So
hey, I like it.
Maybe get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Could beat Austin FC in the U.S. Open Cup again next year.
Come back.
Get a little revenge. Get a little revenge on Austin FC.
You miss me now?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
a couple more Austin FC questions. I want to ask you this question here, Katie. Austin FC, they've been giving up some goals lately, right? So they gave up 4 against the New York Red Bulls, 3 against the Earthquakes. They gave up 3 against Sporting KC, 2 against Minnesota. Are Austin FC, are they a poor defensive team, or do you think they're a good defensive team that's just been making a lot of mistakes lately? Because there's been a lot of individual mistakes. Obviously, this match against Minnesota, you could definitely point to some individual mistakes as far as the reason they're giving up these goals. What do you think it is? Do you think this is a bad defensive team, or is it a good one that's just kind of making some mistakes and shooting itself in the foot?
I think we're a good defensive team with a great offense, so they help to kind of even things out when things don't quite work out on the defense. I also think there's a lot of really great individual talent on the back line. I just don't think the back line is working cohesively together in the way that it needs to be, and that's a coaching thing. And I also think that that is an opportunity for development for next season when you're looking at who you're recruiting, who needs to fill the spaces. I mean, we have incredible players from winger positions, center mid positions, striker positions. Like, we don't need to create any more depth in those areas. Where we need depth really is probably the center back area. I mean, I think Cascante has done some really good things. I think Ruben makes some great tackles. I think if I had to choose between the two, Cascante is going to get my vote there. Wow. I think Romagna did a great job. He's just a little too slow. And I think when you look at him against teams like LAFC, when you look at him against teams like LAFC, that's not going to work. Or a high press like New York Red Bulls, that would not work. So it's just kind of like, I just think that they need to look a little bit closer into their back line, and both strategically and from a coaching standpoint, what the breakdowns are, because a lot of the breakdowns come from them being disconnected, either splitting the center backs or getting on the wrong side of the outside backs.
Or they're too far up. Yeah. I mean, there's you can always point out to different things that the left wing and the right wing the left and right backs aren't doing. And but that, I think that's the gist of it, that they're not really communicating with Gabrielson and Cascante. They're just sort of, I seem to think that there's a lot of spots during games that they're just too much offensive minded. Yeah. And they forget their assignment, that they're supposed to be a little bit back. And that opens up Cascante and Gabrielson to these kinds of situations with poor Cascante. They just got
Because it's interesting. If you listen to the post-match press conferences, I mean, a lot of times they are just like, we don't know why these mistakes keep happening. Why do we keep making mistakes at the beginning of games and going down?
They don't even know what's going on.
So, which is little.
They probably do and just don't.
They want to tell us. They don't want to tell anybody.
They can tell us.
Come on,
Well, yeah, but I think
And there's a lot of simple mistakes. That's what Josh said in the last game. There was a lot of simple mistakes. Yes, and
is that a coaching
that
thing,
doesn't mean you're a bad team or a bad back line if you make simple mistakes. That's understandable. But if the mistakes come from concept, that's an issue because your outside backs aren't staying tucked in. My goodness, stay tucked in. Yeah. And then maybe they won't have as good of a chance at splitting the center back.
Absolutely. Okay, now I think before we actually have the Rigoni. He had a press conference.
Yes.
You were there, Jorge. Were you there, Katie?
I was not.
You were probably driving to this show, so that's probably explains.
Yes,
the rainstorm.
Driving to the show.
Yeah.
Are we ready to go on that Rigoni? Okay, let's go ahead and see Rigoni today, the Rigoni press conference here.
La baja Quiroga, pero se la regala Ruizzi. La tiene Ruizzi, juega profundo para Rigoni. Va Rigoni, se viene Independiente. La lleva Rigoni al cruce, no puede Renzo Vila. Va Rigoni por el primero, Rigoni. ¡Golazo! ¡Gol! ¡Qué pedazo de gol! ¡Gol! De Independiente, Emiliano Rigoni, un pelotazo bárbaro de Ruiz.
Muchísimas gracias por esta bienvenida. Bueno, vamos a ganar los playoffs, vamos a conquistar muchas cosas. Vengo a ayudarlos, así que estoy muy feliz.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're all quite excited to have Emiliano here. It's taken a little while, but that's part of the process. But the wait has been worth it. Emiliano comes to us, as a very mature professional.
Hola, buenas tardes. Muchas gracias. En principio la veía muy de a poco, antes de que surgiera la posibilidad de venir. Cuando Sebas ya me comentó la posibilidad de que se podía dar el paso para Austin, ya comencé a enfocarme demasiado en la liga, en los juegos, en el sistema que usaba el equipo, cómo jugaba, y me fui metiendo mucho en eso.
Bienvenido, Emiliano. Mencionabas que no veías tanto la MLS. Cuando llegó Driussi, cuando llegó Sebas, prácticamente llegó igual que tú. Ahorita es el mejor de la liga. En cualquier otro país podría ser seleccionado, pero no en Argentina. ¿Cómo ves tú que en tu país ven a la MLS?
Yo creo que es una liga que se está potenciando mucho y muy rápido. Hace unos años por ahí se veía menos, se hablaba mucho menos de lo que hoy en día es la MLS. Y por eso hoy muchos sudamericanos prefieren venir aquí antes que ir a otras ligas, y es una de las... Yo me incluyo porque obviamente tuve también posibilidades de ir a otros lugares y preferí venir aquí porque veo el proyecto que tiene la liga. Obviamente Seba está en un gran momento, es un jugador que podría estar seleccionado en cualquier otra selección. Lamentablemente la selección argentina tiene una competencia muy grande en esa posición, y por ahí es más difícil para nosotros, pero yo creo que jugando bien y adaptándose a esta liga uno puede progresar mucho y puede estar en la mira de todo el mundo.
Seguro no escogiste el 77 porque eres el doble de bueno que Sebas.
No, eso es un análisis que van a tener que hacer ustedes después, pero no.
Okay, Josh, we see you happy. I mean, more than any other time.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jorge.
How is the connection with Emiliano outside the field and Emiliano and the team?
I think it's a connection that's going to continue to grow. I exchanged texts with Emiliano a few times with WhatsApp. We've put together certainly some packages that will show him through video what his role can be and what he expects this to look like on the field. But he's a fantastic human being. In a short time, you can see great personality, great humility, which I think is important to our group. Our group is here. It's very much about the collective. It's very much about the work. And he recognizes these things right away. And for our team to be successful, our high high quality players have to come in and make an impact. He's seen what Seba's done. He also recognizes his role inside that, and we want to give him that space as quickly as possible, but in a responsible way. So getting him to settle in, getting him on the field as quick as possible is what we're looking to do. But we also recognize it does take time. Emiliano hasn't played a game or trained in over a month, so we want to get those things in place and put him in a place to succeed and help this team succeed. But I think we're all happy that Emiliano has arrived, and now we work forward and try to get him on the field as quickly as possible.
No sé si en el momento justo llego cuando se dieron las cosas. Da la casualidad que justo jugamos un partido súper importante para nosotros. Y bueno, yo desde hoy estoy a disposición del cuerpo técnico para cuando ellos necesiten usarme. Me entrenaré toda esta semana para poder estar. Y si no me toca estar, apoyaré donde me toque. Pero obviamente es una situación muy linda porque es una recta final del torneo donde nosotros nos comprometen muchas responsabilidades y creo que tenemos todo para poder afrontarlas de la mejor manera. No me asusta Los Ángeles, para nada.
He's not afraid of LAFC.
Not afraid. I love it. Absolutely
That's
love it.
the attitude.
Jerry, excellent work there. The production standards are just marvelous. We don't get that every week here. That's great stuff. And I know, David, you're a little jealous when Wolf was saying he's exchanging WhatsApp messages with Rigoni. I know it's all been one of your dreams to have a few WhatsApp chats with Coach Wolf there. But okay, so I don't know if Katie and I really understood completely what Rigoni. You may have understood more than me.
She understood.
I got it. I
Okay,
followed.
I didn't understand what was said there. Jorge, you were actually there at this press conference.
Right.
Enlighten us as to what Rigoni said, in addition to saying he has no fear of LAFC.
He actually very interesting guy. I mean, very open, very very humble sounding guy. But he's confident in his abilities. And he pretty much said that he's pretty much ready for those coaches to have to put him. Obviously you have to go through the week to practices, but he's ready to go. And so he's not afraid. Like we just said, he's not afraid of LAFC. So he's got a lot of confidence in him, and he's got a lot of ability. And Josh Wolf alluded to that he's very happy.
Yes, we heard from.
So Jorge
the Godfather over there. It's a role.
Yeah, he's happy because he probably. I mean, it's been reported that he's been keeping track of Rigoni for 3 years now. So even before we heard Rodney Redes and other number 10s, he's been keeping track of him. So at the time it wasn't feasible. He's probably still in Zenit, but now the cards fell into place, and he's in Austin FC. So he's obviously very in tune with the abilities that he brings. He did also mention that his strong position is the right on the left wing. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be interesting to see how Finley reacts and then that's going to obviously consequence is going to be how Rodney reacts because sadly I don't think we'll see Redes many more minutes this season. If Rigoni, because Finley's still the starter until he's displaced by Rigoni, and it's expected because he's a DP. So, but yeah, it was a nice little introduction to him. He got a lot of laughs there from Rigoni. So it seems like he's going to be gel very well with his teammates. And so and chemistry as
he was talking about. He talked about that he knew Drusi already. He met Drusi actually in Russia
and Zenit.
So that's
teammate
how
for 3 years.
So that's why the main connection with the team is being Sebastián Drusi, and he's been talking to other players, Argentinian players that play in the MLS.
Yeah,
and he's like very aware of the huge growth. But the fact that he said that. Is it very unlikely that somebody like Drusi would play in the Argentinian national team when there's so many players in that position already in the Argentinian team? So that's what he mentioned there during the interview.
Yeah, and he also as part of that same kind of sequence is that because they asked him, what the Argentinians thought of MLS, and he said probably a few years ago not so much, but we talked about this just earlier. it's different now. A lot of South
especially
American players are coming
when
here.
you saw I saw at the game last game we went, we saw Argentinian flags for the first time. I was like, well, I saw a couple before, but it was like, wow, there's so many Argentinians and there's no Argentinian flag here. What happened? This guy don't even know. Oh, they know.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
And like Minnesota's best player is Reynoso, you know, another South American. So there's guys, you know, Chicho Arango in the LAFC. There's just every single team has a little contingent of South American players.
Yeah, and also you have to say that many players really appreciate the professionalism that there is in the MLS. And not only in the MLS, in all the leagues, and because the kids they're playing the USL,
the facilities,
everything, and the treatment. And when they get hurt, they say before, like in Chile, would that happen to? They would like kick me out if I got hurt. Like they kick me out. Like, I'm not playing anymore. But here they take care. They go to the hospital. They go see you. You know, they make you sure you come back.
They have team psychologists.
Yeah. So that's important. And now
it is. I mean,
and also
you make fun of it, but it is important.
No, yeah, absolutely, definitely is. Okay, so Jorge, you said Rigoni said he's not afraid of LAFC. Do you think he is going to feature against LAFC? I assume that's why he's saying that.
He was asked specifically if Josh Wolf was asked specifically if he expected minutes from him. And he probably said no. But again, it's going to depend on how practice goes this week. If Rigoni's fit as a fiddle, he'll see minutes.
Do whatever Rodney Redis does. He'll get some minutes.
Yeah. Honestly,
Redis is doing in training.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that would be interesting. He's not going to start. Rigoni's not going to start. But to see him take the minutes that Rodney Redis will probably take, that would be an interesting preview, especially in front of the home
an
crowd.
Upgrade, to be sure. Jerry, how much time do we have left? We got 3 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, do you think that's a proper debut for a player like Rigoni, just the last couple minutes of a game versus maybe once you've seen him play in practice and what he's capable of, then kind of, you know, putting him in with either as a starter or with more minutes? Also, you know, you can look at these star players all day, but do they feed into Josh Wolf's system?
Right.
Yes, he's played with Driussi, but do they play well together with the rest of the system? And then you can even look at players from LAFC, Chiellini, who hasn't been in since his handball, who was projected to be
that was an epic
superstar.
That's a handball.
Even Gareth Bale had a minute there where he wasn't, and he got back in this last game,
Right.
But you know, all of these mega superstars that we build up, and then once they get into these programs, have you know, hurdles to get through on their own as well. It's an adjustment phase.
Yeah, it's
change in
definitely an
speed of play, change in style of play, different coaches, different, you know,
There's the
temperature,
language.
language, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, personally, especially up against a team like LAFC, to have a player who is not familiar fully with the system, I don't know that I would put my money on seeing him in this match.
Especially,
don't say that, Katie. I've got my hopes up on a Rigoni.
I want to see him.
I
would
also
bet.
Rigoni.
I've been so patient. You finally got to Austin.
Oh my God, we need to see some play.
Okay, real quick. I think they're about to cut us off here, but I want to get some predictions for LAFC. And on this show here, Katie,
oh my God,
you gotta go big if you're gonna make a prediction on this show. Because if you don't,
what is in the bag?
we got the.
Oh,
You got it.
that's
Accident there.
undecisiveness.
The football in Vivo chicken of indecisiveness almost killed me, but I survived. Okay, football Vivo chicken of indecisiveness. If you don't make a strong prediction, you get the chicken. So what do you think, Katie? What do you think?
Might get the chicken. No, I'm going to call it a tie.
A tie? Katie, that gets you the chicken of indecisiveness. Although in this case, actually, it might be a little bold.
I know.
Yeah, it might be more accurate than.
Yeah. Boy, Rodney Redis, you had the meme of the weekend. I got the meme of the week. The backwards fall here on Club Deportes.
Nobody got it.
No, I did you a favor there, Rodney. So what do you got? What do you got, Jorge? What's your prediction?
Oh, boy. I anticipate a loss. It's going to be a 2-0 loss.
Wow, 2-0.
Yeah, at home. Okay. Because they haven't played all that well at home, for one thing. Mm-hmm. And they you know, they may say they're not afraid of the team, and they probably aren't. But, I mean, the ability is ability. I mean, it really all depends on if Chiellini and Bale somehow feature in the game. I think if they do, honestly, Austin FC will have a better chance. the reverse of it. I mean, if they don't start them, they were already a cohesive team.
Mm-hmm.
But if they add them in there, they're going to try to feature too much. And we're going to see a couple more Cellini handballs if that happens.
Okay. I like it. David, what do you got? We're running short on time.
I have to say that I want the chicken.
You want the chicken?
I want the chicken. I want two. It's going to be 2-2.
2-2.
All right, David. There you go, man.
Okay.
All right, I'm with you, Jorge. I think this is going to be a loss, unfortunately. I'm just not liking Austin FC's chances here. LAFC are just very good. It's not really a knock on Austin FC.
Although they did lose this weekend.
They did, coming off a defeat to the Sporting KC.
And that's the other factor. This team is not going to lose 2 games in a row.
I was going to say, well, usually when they do lose a game, they come back with a lot of fire. LAFC has a ton of depth, even without Chiellini and Bale. They have a ton of depth, and they're playing just a different team right now, is what I feel like. And so that's why I think it's going to be a hard-fought, physical game.
Yeah.
A lot of great opportunities on both sides, which is why I'm coming with the draw.
Well, I hope you two are right.
I think the key will be the errors. It's like this. We have been talking about all the errors every game, but this is it. This is it. If you make an error, you're gonna pay for it.
This team does not forgive errors.
You're gonna pay.
They pounce on them.
So
absolutely. Okay, I think we're out of time here. Katie, thank you so much. Braving the weather, driving up here to see us here, talk football with us. Really appreciate it. And hey, we didn't get to talk Chelsea Leeds.
No Chelsea, no Man City, no Leeds. Oh my God.
All right, thank you to Jerry behind the boards. Thank you to Club Deportes. Thank you to our audience. Do it again next week, guys.